Hi, I'm Gabby and welcome to the Stitch Together project. What is it? Stitch Together is a craft project where people are coming together to make portraits of people that care for or support them. It's inspired by an exhibition called Stitch Drawings by Georgie Meadows, which will be at Resenhall Farm and Workhouse this year. Who's Georgie Meadows? Georgie is an artist who used to be an occupational therapist, working with older people and with a particular interest in mental health. Stitch Drawings shows her work where she stitched portraits inspired by the people she supported. To offer good, compassionate care, indeed to simply care for each other, we need to be able to see each person as a unique individual. As that quote suggests, one theme in her work is about really looking carefully at a person and noticing them and understanding them as a whole person. Some of her pieces show moments or experiences that are very personal and sometimes difficult, and the stitching, to me, seems to be a very kind and careful way of capturing them. So why are we doing what we're doing in Stitch Together? The point in Stitch Together is to explore caring relationships a bit more. In a way, you can think about caring relationships between people as a network of threads that stitch us all together. We have caring relationships all through our lives, and just like any other relationship, there's more than one person involved. So like Georgie tried to really pay attention to the people she cared for, in Stitch Together, we are looking back at the people who care for us. Hopefully, it gives us a chance to reflect on caring relationships and how they shape us in our own lives. Now, time to get stuck into the craft. Hopefully by now, you should have gotten your packs in the post, including a square of fabric, a needle threader, a needle, some cotton thread in different colours, and a pencil. To do the stitching, you will also need some scissors. The first step is to draw your portrait. I've stuck my fabric down to this board so it stays nice and still when I'm trying to draw. Think about someone who supports you. And yes, pets count. I had a good long think about a person who I wanted to draw, and I went with one of my closest friends. You can draw your person in real life, or from a photo, or like me, just from memory. It doesn't have to be super realistic. It's more important for you to think about the main things that you notice and try to put them into a picture as best you can. So the first thing I think of when I think about my friend is her big curly hair. So I'm making a big deal out of that. I'm using just simple lines and trying to fill up the square. Although, remember, it is important to leave at least a finger width around the edge so we can stitch the squares together. Next, I attempted to draw her face, which honestly was quite tricky, but I just kept it simple and remembered to put some strong eyebrows in. And I knew I definitely wanted to make her eyes noticeable, because they are a key feature for me too. Then I just went back over some of my lines to make them darker, because when the drawings come back to us, unless you tell us not to, we'll stitch over the pencil lines of the portrait, and I wanted to make sure some of them were visible. All done. That's my finished drawing. Now if you want to, you can finish here, pack it up and send it back to us, or carry on if you want to do some stitching. I've taken my portrait off the board, and after threading my needle, I tied a knot at the end of the thread. Starting from the back of the portrait, I decided to start stitching green into her eyes, because I definitely wanted to add in her green eye colour. It doesn't matter if your stitches aren't perfect. Mine are a bit wonky, It's more about putting some colour on there that makes you think about that person or just adds to your image of them. When I was happy with her eye, I just took the thread to the back and tied it off, and then found some scissors to cut off the end. One eye done. You can do as much stitching as you like. I added a red flower and a pretty lopsided blue star. If you want to, you can even stitch over your pencil lines and finish the whole thing. But remember, we'll stitch over any that you don't do, so don't worry. Once you're happy with it, pack it up and send it back to us. But finally, if you like, I would love to know a bit more about why you drew the people that you did. If you're happy to, please write a little about why you drew that person and how they care for or support you and send it back to us with your drawing. You'll find a piece of paper for writing this in your pack. Also, please write your name on the paper or somewhere in the envelope you return so we know who drew which portrait. Once all the portraits are returned, we'll stitch over all the pencil lines that haven't already been stitched, and then sew them all together. This finished piece will be displayed at the same time as the Georgie Meadows exhibition here at Gressonhall. That's about everything. Please get in touch if you have any questions, and thanks so much for taking part.